Hello everyone and welcome back to the Lawyer Talk, the podcast channel of BLawyers Vietnam. My name is Chau Dang and I'm pleased to be with you in podcast today. If your company is carrying out a business registration procedure or changing its business registration, you may have received a common request from the Business Registration Authority. Please provide information on the beneficial owner of the company. At first, this may look like a simple declaration, but for the company with a multi-layer ownership structure, especially Vietnamese company owned directly or indirectly by the foreign organization, identifying the real beneficial owner can be more complicated. More importantly, from the July 2026 failure to declare the information or providing inaccurate information may result in a significant administrative penalty. In certain cases, a person identified as a beneficial owner may also be subject to exit suspension due to the company tax liability. So, what should company and investor watch out for when repairing or updating their business registration dossier? In this episode, BLawyers Vietnam will focus on three practical questions about beneficial ownership declaration in Vietnam. First, can a company be penalized for failing to declare information about its beneficial owner? Second, for the company with a multi-layer ownership structure, especially when the direct owner is a foreign company who will be identified as a beneficial owner. Third, in what cases may an individual identified as a beneficial owner be subject to exit suspension? The first question is, can a company be penalized for failing to declare its beneficial owner? Under Article 3 and 4 of Decree 288, a company that fails to declare information about its beneficial owner or information used to identify its beneficial owner when carrying out a business registration procedure may be subject to be a fine of 50 million to 100 million Vietnam dong. The company must also take corrective action by providing the missing information. For the company established before the beneficial ownership declaration requirement become applicable, the risk also array applicable when they make their latest business registration change. For example, if they change the legal representative or head office address but fail to provide the required beneficial ownership information, the company may be fined from 70 million to 100 million Vietnam dong. The company may also be penalized if it fails to report a request from a competent authority. This includes failing to provide beneficial ownership information, providing incomplete information, missing the deadline, or providing untruthful or inaccurate information. The key point here is information about the beneficial owner is no longer just a procedural requirement. Companies are required to identify, declare, and update this information accurately. The second question is for a company with a multi-layer ownership structure. Who is the beneficial owner? This is probably one of the questions that many companies, especially foreign invested companies, are more concerned about. Under Article 3 of Decree 296, the beneficial owner of the legal entity company is the individual or individuals who directly or indirectly own or ultimately control the company in practice. This can be understood in three levels. Level 1, pay-on ownership. First, ownership. An individual who will be identified as the beneficial owner. If he or she directly, indirectly, or both directly or indirectly, or at least 25% of the share capital or at least 25% of the total voting share. Indirect ownership may be held through the one or more organizations or other legal arrangements. In particular, where a group of individuals who are family members or who share all share or capital under agreement reaches the 25% threshold. though individual may be identified as a beneficial owner. For a partnership, all general partners are identified as beneficial owners, regardless of their ownership percentage or voting rights. Level 2. Pay on actual control. If no individual meets the 25% ownership threshold, or there are grounds to believe that the individual meeting the ownership requirement is not actual beneficial owner, the company must continue to identify the individual who has ultimate control over the company in practice. Actual control may be solved in different ways. For example, the right to appoint or remove a most member of the management body, the right to amend the company charter, the right to change the organizational structure, or the right to decide financial, investment, business, reorganization, or dissolution matter. Level 3. The manager with the highest authority. Only when no individual can be identified on the first two levels will the company identify the manager with the highest authority to act on behalf of the company, except for the individual representing the state capital. Therefore, for a Vietnamese company whose direct owner is the foreign company, the company should not automatically declare its general director as the beneficial owner simply because no individual directly owns 25% or more the Vietnamese company. The company should trade the ownership structure and control rights from the Vietnamese company up through the ownership chain. The goal is to identify the individual who ultimately own or control the company. This is particularly important for a multinational group, foreign invested company, and business with multi-layer ownership structure. The last question is, in what cases may beneficial be subject to exit suspension? This point needs to be clearly distinguished. Being identified as a beneficial owner do not automatically mean that individual is responsible for own obligation or own valuation of the company. However, under Article 28 of Decree 252, a beneficial owner may be subject to exit suspension in a tax enforcement case. This may apply if the company has tax debt of 500 million Vietnamese dong or more, and those debts are overdue the 120 days or more. This is another situation. Exit suspension may also apply if the tax authority determines that the company is not operating at its registered address. If the company does not restore or terminate its tax identification number within the 120 days from the notice, the beneficial owner may fall within the exit suspension rules. In short, being a beneficial owner does not automatically mean exit suspension whenever the company had a violation. The measure applies only when the legal conditions of the tax administration rule are met. This is why the company and relevant individual should be careful with the nominee arrangement or with ownership structure that do not reflect the real owner or the person with the ultimate control. So there are the 3 key questions BLawyers Vietnam want to share today on beneficial ownership in Vietnam. First, can a company pay penalties for failing to declare its beneficial owner? Second, how should the beneficial owner be identified in the multi-layer ownership structure? And third, in what cases may an individual beneficial owner be subject to exit suspension? We hope today's discussion gives the company and investor a clear understanding of beneficial owner declaration requirement in Vietnam. This is especially relevant for those carrying out the company establishment, business registration, or business registration trend procedure. More importantly, we hope it helps you identify the compliance risk early. If you have any questions or need support in reviewing your company ownership structure, controls right, or beneficial ownership declaration requirements, please leave your question below and contact BLawyers Vietnam for further assistance. Thank you and see you next time.